Hey guys, checking in for the first time in a while on Facebook Live anyway. Just going to recap the message that we gave to youth group the last time we had a message. We went to Adventure Landing last Wednesday, but the one before that we had a conversation and some of our kids missed it from youth group. And it's just one of those things where even though this is something that's designed for the youth group, we can still put it on the whole page for everybody to see. So we talked a bit ago, 2 weeks ago this would have been, or a week and a half ago. We kind of wanted to dive in and talk about the idea of assessing love that we would have for God and for things. So if we rewind a little bit, we find a story where after the Last Supper, Jesus explains that there's going to be someone who's sitting at the table who will betray them. And several of the disciples get very vehement and saying, I would never do that, I would never do that, I would never do that. And Jesus says, I tell you the truth, someone sitting at this table will betray me tonight. And later on in the same thread, Peter says that he would sooner die than give up on Jesus. And Jesus says, I tell you the truth, that you'll betray me 3 times before the rooster crows. And Peter gets offended because we've seen him so many times say that he would never leave Jesus aside, never give up on him. So Peter has this belief that he truly does love God enough, love Jesus enough, that he would never abandon him. And then you pick up in John chapter 21, and Jesus is on trial for crimes that he didn't commit, and Peter's standing outside, and 3 different times people say, hey, we know you. You were that guy that was hanging out with Jesus. And the first time he goes, no, I wasn't. That's not me. You've got the wrong guy. The second time he says, no, I think you're mistaking me for someone else. The third time it says that he swears that it wasn't him, whether he was cursing or he was just saying, I swear to God, I swear whatever, things that we shouldn't do. We should just say yes or no. But Peter's very vehement that it's not him, that he's not associated with Jesus. So after that, we have the disciples out fishing. So Jesus has passed away. The disciples maybe haven't seen him risen from the dead yet. And they're out fishing and they haven't caught anything all night. And they hear a voice from the shore that says, throw your net over the other side of the boat. So the disciples throw their net over the right side of the boat and they catch so many fish that they can't pull it in. And the scripture says 153 large fish. This might be John 21. I'm sorry. I'm looking at my notes at the screen behind my phone. And in John 21, Jesus says, throw your net on the other side of the boat. And they catch basically more fish than they could have ever caught. And they kind of realize at that point that this is a miracle and that it's most likely Jesus on shore. And Peter is so excited to see Jesus that he takes off his coat, he jumps in the water, and he swims up to the shoreline. And it's funny because he swims to the shore and the boat with the disciples in it shows up a couple seconds later. He really didn't have to do that, but he was so excited. And he gets to the shore, and Jesus has some breakfast cooking for them. And after they eat, Jesus says, Peter, do you love me? And Peter goes, yes, you know I love you. Then feed my sheep. Then he says, hey, Peter, do you love me? And Peter goes, yes, you know I love you. And Jesus says, feed my lambs. And then a third time, Jesus says, Peter, do you love me? Peter is offended. He's hurt that Jesus would ask him 3 times, you know me, you know that I love you. And I don't even know if the light bulb went off for Peter that just a few days ago he denied knowing Jesus 3 times. And now of course Jesus knows that Peter loves him, and Peter does love him. But Jesus is kind of reinstating. If you read some versions of the Bible, I think in the NIV, this section of story is called Jesus reinstates Peter. Because Peter denying knowing Jesus is a pretty bad sin, if you will. It's a pretty bad crime. And Jesus reinstates him with this conversation. And do you love me 3 times? And Peter says, you know I love you. And Jesus says, then show that you love me by taking care of people, right? When he says, feed my sheep, feed my lambs. So if we transition a little bit, I actually asked the kids at youth group that night, what questions would you ask me if I was supposed to be proving that I love someone, maybe like my wife? Or this could work more generically. What questions would you ask someone so that they would prove that they love their spouse, their kids, their family, or their friends? And some good questions came up. So some of the questions were like, how often do you think of that person? Do you put that other person first? Do people know that you love that person? Do you tell that person that you love them? Do you talk to them often? Do you ask how they're doing? Do you listen to them? And they were really good questions. And after we had that list of questions, so the ones that I just listed off, there might have been an expectation that I was going to answer them about my wife or my kids or my friends. But the reality is, if we take those same questions and we apply them to our relationship with God, do people know that you love God? Do you listen to him? Do you talk to him about how life is going? Do you tell him that you love him? Do people know that you love him? Are you in such a relationship with him that it's not a secret, or that people know and he knows that you love him and you have that type of relationship with him, right? So do you buy them stuff? Do you take care of them? Like, is your any question that you could use to prove that someone loves their kids or their spouse? Do you spend time with them? Do you talk to them? Do you ask how their day was? Do you tell them that you love them? Can all apply to our relationship with God. Do we tell God that we love him? Do we talk to him? Do we spend time with him? Do we use our gifts and our talents and our money to build up our relationship with him? And nobody's perfect. This is just merely meant to kind of be an assessment. And you can even do this yourself. Write down a list of questions that you think would be good to ask someone if you were trying to make them prove that they love someone. And then change the subject of that question, or the objective of that question. And instead of it being me loving my kids or you loving your friend, have it be your love for God, your relationship with God. Because if we're not in a spot where we can confidently say that we talk to God, we have relationship with him, we ask him how he's doing, we spend time with him, we're selfless towards him, we think about him often, we listen to him, then maybe we're in a place where we don't really love God. We might be in a spot where we're like, look, I don't deny knowing Jesus. I didn't do what Peter did. I haven't abandoned my belief and my faith in Jesus Christ. So it's obvious that I love him. Well, maybe we can just kind of assess our love for him a little bit and just refocus, recenter, rebuild, refresh our relationship with him in a way that makes us really sure that we love him, and we're showing that correctly in a healthy way, right? There's times when people have been married for a long time, or they're parents and kids, where they don't say that they love each other anymore because they just know. Maybe you're in that kind of place with God where you just know and he just knows. But if not, if you're not sure, tell him that you love him, right? Talk to him about it. Here's the last thing that I'll kind of wrap up with. Maybe the reason that we love God and have relationship with him is because other people do, or because of our involvement in a church. After all, I work for the church, so of course I love Jesus. That doesn't necessarily have to be true. But I go to church all the time. I'm a deacon, I'm an elder, I'm a member, I'm a staff member, I'm a pastor. Of course I love God. And there's this kind of like connection to our love from God because of a status, because of a situation, because of our parents, because of our kids, because of our spouse, because of some other reason. And another way to kind of assess our maturity and our love for God could be this. If no one else that you knew in the whole world loved God, would you still love him? If every person that is your brother or sister in faith abandoned their faith, would you still love God? Not an easy question to answer. And thankfully and hopefully none of us go through that, where we're kind of left on an island with our belief and our faith and our love for God. But that's a valid question. Do we love God because of our relationship with him? Do we love God because of what he's done for us and what, the relationship that we have with him? Or is our love for God based on our surroundings and the people around us and the way we were raised and the church we belong to and our job and our position? Or is it based on our relationship with him, that it's not contingent on what's going on around us? So if no one in our life loved Jesus, if no one in our life knew Jesus, if every person that we're walking through our Christian faith with abandoned their faith, would we still be standing? So two thoughts wrapping up. Last thing. Ask good questions of your relationship with God. Do you love him entirely? Do you tell him that you love him? Do you have a healthy relationship with him? Do you talk to him? Do you listen to him? Do people know you love him? Do you give him your time? Do you think about him a lot? Any of these questions that you would use to qualify your love for someone on this earth, if you apply them to your love for God, are they the answers that you want to hear? And secondly, is your love for Jesus contingent on where you are, who you are, what you're surrounded by, and the people around you? Or is your love for Jesus contingent on the life-changing relationship that you have with him because he loves you and he wants to be in relationship with you? Thanks for tuning in, guys. Hope you're doing well, and we look forward to seeing you for Youth Group Wednesday night, Prayer Vigil this Wednesday from 5 to 8 o'clock in the Prayer Chapel. Linda Smith is running that. You can contact her if you have prayer requests. Even if you swing by for 20 minutes tomorrow, that's Wednesday, that's awesome. Programs are ramping back up. We had a men's breakfast. Church services are back on Sunday morning. So we're really enjoying getting reconnected throughout the pandemic and getting things back to normal, if you will. But check the church website, knoxepc.com, to find out what's going on. We're grateful to be reconnecting. Thanks for tuning in, guys. And of course, if you have any thoughts or questions about this, don't hesitate to reach out. Be blessed. Talk to you.